Bush. I'm the Vice President of the Hospitality Management Association here at Ohio State. I'm here to talk to you just a little bit about HMA. What we do is obviously we bring in speakers such as Jenny from Jenny's Ice Cream and other speakers so that you guys can network and meet the people around here so that you can become more familiar with the hospitality management program and the people that are involved with them around Ohio State. A little bit about Jenny. As you all know, she makes tremendous ice creams. It's been praised as America's Best by Time magazine. She has 10 locations, 8 in Central Ohio, 1 in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and 1 a little bit south in Nashville, Tennessee. She has been praised as great ice cream, and she has been working, I think, for about 15 years in the industry, a little longer maybe. But on behalf of food lovers everywhere, I'd like to introduce Miss Jeni Britton Bauer and
We're going to try and go without microphones, and can everyone hear in the room? Is that okay? So we're going to try and go without microphones. And my name is Jeff. Jeff Byers. I work in the College of Education and Ecology. And in conversation with Jenny, we decided to change the format of just the lecture portion of the program. And so on Jenny's creative side, we thought we would try something a little unique. And so what we're going to do is we'll have a conversation, Jenny and I'll ask her some questions, and she'll respond to those. And so we'll do that for about a half hour or so. And then following that, we'll open up the floor to questions. And we're going to, again, staying on the creative side of things, we're going to offer a Facebook post. If you have any questions and you want to post a question for Jenny to respond to, you can do that digitally as well as tweeting as well. We have Cam, raise your hand, Cam. Cam's going to be monitoring our Facebook page as well as the tweets, and she'll offer those questions up. And then if you just want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can just raise your hand and you can ask a question from the floor. So we're just going to try and keep the dialogue moving and engage in a great conversation with Jenny.
Or just yell it out.
So thank you very much, Jenny, for joining us. And we have the hospitality management group here to hear your story about how you started your business and continue to drive that. And I guess we can just begin from the very beginning. So just tell us how you got your start as a little one and what you were like as a little one.
Well, hi everybody. Thanks for having me. You want to know what I was like when I was a little kid? I think I hit the ground running when I was little. I hated school. Hated school. Got cold, still get cold sweats walking into school. College doesn't feel, university doesn't feel like school to me so much. I loved Ohio State. But schools always feel like prisons, like with their big blocks, cinder blocks everywhere, painted. I mean, always the worst colors, like Soviet green and yellow. So I hated that. But I loved being home. I always had clubs in my neighborhoods. I was always organizing things, always trying to create resources in the community. I moved almost every year, by the way, to a whole different neighborhood. So I had to make a complete new set of friends every year. And I would organize them, and we'd do something, we'd give all the money back to something, which was usually very little. But I was organizing and doing things from the time I was very little, and trying to make things, and even sell them sometimes on the playground, actually a lot.
So were you doing the lemonade stand? And
I didn't really do lemonade stands. I did lots of different businesses. I like to talk to little kids because I tell them that entrepreneurship is something you can start really, really young. Like, in fact, now is the good time to do it because you have so much to learn that even when you're little, you've got to start doing it, or whenever. So I would do whatever. I would collect marigold seeds from the marigolds. My grandmother told me that you collected them, you could replant them next year. So every time hers died, I would just collect them all, put them in baggies, and walk around and knock on doors and sell them. I made shoelaces and sold them on the playground at school. Like, I had my sister selling them to me. I'd open up my display on recess and close it up until I got in trouble. And then I would just move to a new school and start all over again. And it was just great. So I did that a lot. I used to once I went to a really big school in Centerville, Ohio, and there were like 3 different wings of the school, and I had salespeople. So I found out, because, by the way, there was no food in my house. I was hungry. There was no food in my house except Kool-Aid and sugar. So we had a food processor. I thought I would make some food. I put the Kool-Aid and sugar in the food processor, and what was it? Well, it was totally food. It was pixie stick dust. So I ate all that and thought, somebody's going to want this at school, which of course they did. So then in fact, I went down to the store. This is awful. I stole straws and went back and filled them in my house and sold them at school the next day. Well, then it was a huge business. So then it was, we made lots of money every day after school. We went and got pizza after school. We made about $10 a day.
Entrepreneur from that early years. And so a former OSU student. And so how about just talking a little bit about your life on campus and what were you doing in your spare time? Were you in the library? Were you on High Street? Were you...
Well, first, before I decided to go to Ohio State or even apply, I thought I wanted to do makeup for Star Trek. That was like what I was going to do. And so after high school, I went in and did this makeup, this like thing that I had to do in order to get into this makeup school, this like film makeup school in Hollywood. And then I decided not to do that anymore, and I decided to apply to Ohio State. And I didn't get in, of course, because I had horrible grades in high school. And they did have computers back then. This wasn't that long ago, but I hand wrote an appeal. I don't know how I learned. I don't even know if I knew that you could appeal not getting into Ohio State fall quarter, but I wrote a hand letter to whoever it was that I decided needed that, and they let me in, which was hilarious. So I was super excited about that. Filled out my first quarter, but then I really started to get my stride, and I loved Ohio State. My grandmother is an artist. Even she's 86 years old, she has Parkinson's, she's still an artist, was an art teacher. And so I started studying art and art history here. And whatever else intrigued me, tried to stay away from science and maths. Which I ended up doing later in my life, mostly anyway. But.
And then, so somewhere along the line you started getting into the bread store or the pastry type of experience. And so was that a job while you were on campus?
When I was in high school, well, I worked a lot when I was a kid. I started, I was an industrial babysitter. I mean, I started babysitting when I was 10. I made flyers, I passed them out in the neighborhood. I had stacks of cash on my dresser. I was babysitting every single day. And then when I turned 15, I was the first one to apply at Grader's Ice Cream here, the very first employee in Columbus. I turned 16, like right when they opened, like the day they opened or something, and started working there. Le Chatelaine opened up right across the parking lot, and I walked over there and got a job there. I met so many foreign students, French especially, but people from all over the world who came to work at Le Chatelaine, because back then it was just this wonderful French or Belgian family, and a very young family, and this beautiful food that they were creating from scratch in their kitchen. It reminded me of my grandmother's food. They would bring in foods from their gardens, and we always had gardens growing up, and make pastries out of them. So I learned a lot, and just my world broadened a lot when I started working there.
And so growing up, there was, you were talking about entrepreneurship, and then with Ohio State, there's perseverance that you had to get into Ohio State. And so, and then your experience with Graders and Le Chatelaine and the restaurant business. What was the tipping point that you said, I'm going to pursue your own business, and then why ice cream?
I think I always knew that I would be doing business because I'm a really nice person, but I'm completely unmanageable. Completely. I love working for other people, and I've worked for really, really great people in my life, and I love hard work, and I love mopping floors and cleaning out drains, and I love the hard stuff. And I think I do it pretty well. But I always do it my way, and it doesn't always work. Like, for instance, when I made the croissants at Le Chatelaine, I always tweaked the recipe, which is not a very nice thing to do, because they didn't turn out perfect every time. Sometimes they were not great. But anyway, now I just lost my train of thought, because I went completely over there. What was your question again?
The tipping point to embark on your own business.
So I always knew that I would be in business because of that, because I knew that I couldn't, that I don't care how wealthy I am, I just can't work for somebody else. I know that I could do it on my own. I know I can at least make a career. So when I started, so I was young, I was 21 years old, and I was at Ohio State studying art, and I was thinking about maybe going to pastry school, because I was working at Le Chatelaine, and I was thinking about also another option, which I still to this day would love to do, and that is to go to Grasse, France, and learn perfuming. I don't actually wear perfume, but I love perfume. I love layering of sensory experiences, which is what any art is. So I was thinking about perfuming and pastry. So that kind of got together as ice cream. I had all these essential oils that I was working with in my house, and I had high on essential oil, which does not have a scent, but it has a sensory reaction on your tongue. It's hot, but it has no flavor or scent. So I mushed it into chocolate ice cream. I thought that would be funny to take to a party and give it to these friends. And then it was like, you ate the chocolate, you tasted the chocolate, you felt the cold, and it burst into flames. And it was ice cream. So that became like, from then on, from that moment on, it was truly like the sky opened up and I knew there was nothing, I didn't need to do anything else in my life. Just go forward with that. And I did. I did. 6 months later, I walked out of my last art class because a woman walked in that I didn't want to draw. It was a figure drawing, which I love, but there was this one model I did not like. I didn't enjoy drawing. And so I got up. I even left all my stuff there and went home and made ice cream and never went back. I opened my first ice cream business in 1996 called Scream.
I think before we get into the business, I think we have a video that we can click to. And this is just so everyone can get a good feel for Jeni's brand, the stores, and kind of the personality of the business. That was good. That's fun, playful. You can really see that Jeni's fun to actually coming out. And so back to where you were starting about your first store, is that what you envisioned? About Scream and what you were doing or thinking?
Well, I started Scream in the North Market. Have you guys been to the North Market downtown? I had to beg them to let me in to do a business there. It's not the easiest place to get into a business, and it shouldn't be. There's a lot of people who go through there every year, and it's high demand. But it took a lot to get months of working at it. I bought a suit, which I've never worn since. But we got in there, and then I didn't know anything about business at all. But what I did was I just started working with the merchants of the market. The market is very much a community. It's almost like a family. I mean, people there where I've learned so much about ingredients. I was there for 4 years with Scream, making ice cream out of everything in the North Market that I could find. I mean, coarse spices, fruits and vegetables, chocolates, even like meats and fish sometimes. Whatever was in the market, I made into ice cream, all the baked goods. And that just sort of became what we do. There were a lot of problems with Scream, so we closed Scream. I mean, I didn't understand how to have consistent product. I didn't understand how to have the same flavors and build that sort of that craveable reason to return, I call it. So I wouldn't have flavors a lot that people wanted and that I'd had before or whatever. But opened Jeni's 2 years later, closed Scream in 2000, opened Jeni's 2 years later with a real business plan. I didn't really have a plan going into Scream. I just sort of learned as I went.
So talk a little bit more about the business plan. So did, once you started through the business plan, did it unfold the way you had planned? Any distractions?
Well, what I planned was just to have a salary, was really just to have a salary, to have a business in the North Market that I could live off of, for the rest of my life. And so, yeah, it did. But I had this failure at Scream, which was sort of heartbreaking, and I didn't want that to happen again. So at Scream, I had pink hair, and I wore crazy outfits, and did whatever I wanted to do, had whatever flavors I felt like making that day. But at Jeni's, I dyed my hair brown, I cut it short, I wore starched white shirts, I starched them every morning, white aprons. I took all emphasis off of me, put it all on the ice cream and on the community. And we had a line from day one, and that was Michigan Game Saturday in 2000. So it was 10 years ago.
And same with the nuts and bolts of the business plan. Where did you get your business plan? Did you create it, or how did that come together?
It took me about 8 months to write the business plan. I didn't know how to write a business plan, so I worked with the Small Business Association has a template. It's very long. I read every business planning book in the library. I found that Business Planning for Dummies was the best one. And I just went off of their template and I wrote a plan. My plan was really long. It focused a lot on the ingredients and how it's going to look and feel and all this. But all the feedback I got was, well, how much money are you going to make, So I had to basically get rid of all of that stuff, give a quick menu, and spend all of the time on projections, which mean nothing because you actually have no idea what you're going to make. But you try to do that in those numbers. You have to think about exactly what equipment you need. And I wrote this really, really detailed plan. We got approved for the loan after like 6 tries. It took a year, which is why we ended up opening in November instead of like March is when we wanted to open. But because of the business plan, because I had everything down to the last detail, and I'd been working it and reworking it for so long, and I knew exactly how much it was going to cost to do everything, I'd already negotiated all the equipment. We got the loan approved, and 2 weeks later, we were open for business in the North Market. That's the power of the North Market. I mean, it's already ready for food service businesses, so we didn't have to do any real renovations. But all of the equipment was in, all of the ice cream was made. 2 weeks later, we opened for business.
And talk a little bit more about the financing, because that's a common thread, a common concern about people who want to start a new business. And so was getting the financing, was that more anxiety, was it fear, was it enthusiasm?
Getting financing is almost impossible. It was impossible then, it's more impossible now. But it's also true that it's the easiest thing about starting a business. So if you can get the money, you're just half, I mean, you're not even, I mean, that's just a tiny beginning. So just if you know that, that's the, you just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. I mean, if you have to, you're going to have partners. I had one person who wanted to invest in the business, who offered money. I've been a nanny for this family, and I convinced them. But they said, you can have money, $30,000, but don't take it. And I was like, well, wait, I've been working, trying to, like, I wrote this business plan for you, and I made you guys ice cream, and like, you were supposed to give it to me. And he said, don't take it, because if I give you money, then I own part of your company, like half your company. And that is going to change the way that you do things for the rest of your life in your business. And so I went home, tears streaming out of my eyes, and I'm like, what are we going to do? So we started going to the bank. And we begged, family and friends for money. We would get $100 here, $1,000 here. We paid all that back in a couple months after we got the loan. And, it was just scraping everywhere we could. I mean, nobody that we knew had money. We didn't. So there you go.
So you had the idea, and then you had financing. And I just want to read a real quick quote from the blog The Kitchen, which is a great food blog on the web. And it's Jeni Britton Bauer. So this is a quote from the blog. Jeni Britton Bauer has a thing or two to tell artisans who want to create and sell local food. Be a rock star. You have to go out there and go get it like you're trying to be the president of the United States. In other words, you probably need to do what she did. Work 80 hours a week, don't take a salary for years, and be on your toes every single day. So can you talk about the hard work that people may or may not see underscore the business?
It's how do you describe how difficult it is? It's really fun. It's really challenging. It's like playing a really great chess game every single day. But it never stops. As soon as you grow a little bit or something happens that's really great, the rules change. And you've got to learn something new. And you've got to learn and get new permits or new this or new that or new skills. It is really constant. And it really is like running for office. I mean, I learned that in the North Market because if you start a business, and I hope all of you do, I hope because it's really great and really fun, you're the only one that has that. I mean, that understands what you're doing in the wind. And you can create culture in your company and you can share it with everybody around you, but you're the only one that has it to your bones, DNA. So you're the only one that can go out and seriously shake hands, hold babies, talk, say the same thing over and over and over again. You have to live by that. So, when I was out talking about how great the ice cream was, well, it better be really great. So then there's that. It's like everything, and it really is constant. I mean, I can't, there's no line between me. I always joke about the Jeni and me. Like, there's the Jeni who does that, and then there's me, home, changing diapers and doing all that stuff. There really isn't much difference. It's one and the same. I'm constantly thinking about, I'm constantly engaged in the business, no matter where I'm at. And I'm constantly engaged in my other life, too. They're all one and the same. It never stops. There's no, people talk about balance. That is the balance. It's just one thing.
Are you able to share a little bit about when the business began to turn a profit or you began to see some of the rewards? Was that instant? Did it take years?
Well, we weren't losing money. Well, we think. I mean, accounting is really complicated. I don't know if any of you guys know anything about accounting, but it's very complicated. I am not 100% sure that we're making money to this day. We are almost a low profit company, certainly a low profit company, almost in the world of Tom Shoes. We're out of that now, but we're 10 years old. We've never gone into this thinking, let's go make a bunch of money in ice cream. We went into this thinking, let's pay all of our bills, let's pay all of our employees, let's give them benefits, let's make the best ice cream anybody's ever made, and make better ice cream tomorrow than we do today. Let's treat people really well and make people feel good. And if we can do all that and not lose money, we're great. And we can pay ourselves a little bit. I mean, we don't drive Ferraris or, any of that. We have a great team, and that's sort of been our goal. And I think some of the best businesses are that way. You're not thinking about, of course, profit has to happen. And we're lucky because we have a great CEO. We brought in a very good friend, John Lowe, 3 years ago, who helps just really manage all of that, which is imperative. I mean, we wouldn't be here without that, but we stretch what you can do, I think, sometimes.
You mentioned Tom Shoes. Are there other businesses out there that you aspire to be like or that you learned from? And so any companies or models that you could off of?
There are cheese companies that I love. I love Cowgirl Creamery. You guys know Cowgirl Creamery? They're awesome. I love some of the other artisanal food businesses like Mass Brothers Chocolates, highly creative. I love Zingerman's. You guys know Zingerman's? If you guys don't know Zingerman's, you should. They're in Ann Arbor. They wrote Ari Weinswig is the owner. He writes great business books, amazing customer service books, and he's become a friend of mine over years, but I've been following him for 15 years, and he's awesome. So Zingerman's is this like really great deli, but then they didn't open like a bunch of delis. They could have franchised, they could have made money that way. But instead they started doing internet sales and catalog sales, and then they would open a bread bakery, and then they opened so all these sort of supporting businesses. It's awesome. Just check it out because that's been a company that's become a mentor for us.
Great. So let's leave some of the business side and more of the fun or creative aspect. Talk a little bit how the menu is created and how you get from an idea or concept into an actual product that's in your cooler or on the shelf of a distributor.
So let me talk about my role in the company, because I think because flavor development is one of those, and it's really fun, but it's sort of like art. I mean, it's like creative direction. So anything that customers experience in any way when they're eating the ice cream or standing in front of the ice cream, whether it's in LA or in one of our stores, is what I do. And so every 3 months we're working on new flavors that are a part of a new fun campaign. We do all of our artwork in-house, all of our copywriting, we do all photography, all of it in-house, which is part of the fun and also a lot of challenges. So about 16 weeks before we have the flavor has to be started production, I've already been working on it probably for 6 months. I give the list of my flavors we have a kitchen team. I have 2 guys in the kitchen. And I give some ideas, some recipes and whatever that I want them to try, and then we start tasting. And for a couple weeks, we just back and forth. This is working, this is not working, we're taking notes, keeping really, really great records, and we have worksheets we fill out, and we sit around this table and eat ice cream every day at 3 o'clock, which we do anyway, even if it's not a part of this time. Because we're not testing ice cream, then we're pulling ice cream out of our kitchen just to test quality and do blind tastings, whatever. So that once we get through and find the flavor, so right now we're working on spring. We're doing this great flavor that is inspired by the symphony by Igor Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, which is the 100th year anniversary. It's kind of like a punk rock ballet. It's really cool, and so we're doing the flavor about that. So that's been really fun to develop. But then once that happens, then we go into, I write usually like a paragraph that's sort of like the theme of everything, give it to the design team, and from there, we're just all working together. The designers, photographers go to work, the copywriter, we start developing this campaign. So right now we're doing, for holidays, our campaign is called Flavors from Earth. It's like sci-fi. It's if we loaded up, an awesome rocket ship with ice cream and sent it out into space, and we wanted the ice cream to tell as much about us as possible, what flavors would we send them right now from Ohio at the holiday time? And so if we wanted, some other beings out in space, as much as they can about us at the holidays. So that's been really fun. So we're all of our decorations and stuff and photography are so we've done like all these really close-ups of ice cream that look like other planets, and so we put like this little rover like on the surface of the ice cream and blow everything up and then make it, and then we have these like galaxies where, so it's been a lot of fun.
And so then how do some of those, like salted caramel, for example, go along, tried and true? So how does that establish it, mark in the store, just demand?
Well, yeah, so we have our signature flavors. There's about, I don't know, 10 of them. There's 21 of them, actually. And then we have what we call perennial flavors that come back every year, like strawberry buttermilk, lemon and blueberry, which is my favorite, sweet corn and black raspberry. And then we have like 3 or 4 new flavors. And the only reason we do new flavors is because it's fun, but also because every once in a while, not very often, but every once in a while, one of those flavors will be so good. Usually we know it. Sometimes we think it's going to be great, and then people don't love it. That we have to put it on the signature menu. And so this year it's already happened twice, which is sort of rare. I mean, last year it didn't happen at all. So this year we had Yazoo Stew, which is a cherrywood smoked porter with rosemary bar nuts, which is like rosemary, cayenne, brown sugar roasted every nut in our kitchen, in this really dark beer ice cream. It's so good, it's addictive. And then this other one we made inspired by James Thurber, which was like a martini, it's juniper and lemon curd. And those were just part of campaigns that we did this year that ended up on our signature menu because they're so good we have to have them. And customers have to. So we put them out in the wild, even if like we're not quite sure about it, and we get feedback, which is really fun. So our customers are really a part of that process. And by releasing new flavors every 3 or 4 months, we get to do that. We get to bring people in on it and listen to people. And now is a great time because everybody tells us space. It used to be people just calling me on my cell phone, which they still do sometimes. But now it's like everybody just tells us what they think on multiple places on the internet.
So talk about the value proposition. Are you really selling ice cream? And I guess beyond just eating of the ice cream. So if you would think of Victoria's Secret, are they really selling lingerie or are they selling beauty? And so is Jeni's Splendid Ice Cream selling ice cream, or are you that beyond?
We actually have a lot in common with Victoria's Secret. It's true. Because, I just have to say this, because they're changing, there's only so much you can do with underwear, right? It's always the same shape, pretty much, with different colors and trims, right? And I've talked to the CEO, she's awesome, Lisa Lamb, and if you ever have, she's awesome. We've talked about this before. We're doing the same thing with ice cream. It's always ice cream. It's always cream. And then we're just changing the finishes and making it fit with the season, So it's kind of fun that way. But I always say that value proposition, by the way, is a word that is something I just learned, like not that long ago. Like I never would have used that term. But we always say that we make this really splendid ice cream out of really great ingredients that connect you to people and make you feel good. So when you eat our vanilla ice cream, if you want to, and maybe you just in it for the vanilla, that's totally cool. But if you want to, you can learn about Lulu Sturdy and the people who live on her farm in Uganda, being paid fairly. They're awesome. We all have crushes on Lulu, all of us in the company. How they bring that vanilla to life and what it means to us, because it really is the best vanilla I've ever had. And not just ice cream, but the vanilla beans themselves. I've had a lot of vanilla beans. Like all of them. And this is the best. And we import them directly into our kitchen. So when you eat our ice cream, you can go through this little wormhole and go meet Lulu and learn about that. And maybe it takes you somewhere for a minute. Or, when we talk about boozy eggnog, like my grandfather's recipe for eggnog is with whiskey. And he got that from they call it the gunner's eggnog, because in World War II, the gunner on the airplane had this whiskey recipe. That's the one my grandfather always used every Christmas. And most people make eggnog out of rum and brandy or brandy. My grandfather makes whiskey because of gunner. So there's all these little stories which are really fun, and I think you can sort of get transported with ice cream. And I think in the end, it feels good because ice cream just physically feels great to eat, but also you're always there with somebody you care about in some way. Especially on a date, it's the best place for a first date. It's great, but even if it's a grandmother or a child or whatever, it's always about this sort of relationship. And if you have something to talk about, ice cream is a great starting point. I think it ends up being about that.
Every time I go into your store, I always feel like someone has done something very special for me, and so it's like it's a treat. And I think that kind of someone has taken the time to be very creative and surprising me, and so I enjoy that. And so, can you talk a little bit about how you continue to innovate and be creative on every turn and maintain that pace of delivering on a surprise every time someone comes in the door?
Well, we don't we don't think of it as an external mission to make people feel good, but we talk about it all the time internally. I think of customer service, and I talked to our team about this too, that we can pay you to scoop ice cream in the right serving. We can pay you to pack pints in certain ways, to handwrite the pints in a certain way, to do all these physical things. But I don't believe that we're paying you to give great service, or to treat people kindly, or to abide by the laws of civility, or any of that. I think that's a gift, and I think it's a gift that that the person working the counter chooses to give out in the world. And as a gift, it comes back. If we put that out into the world, you get it back. You always do. That's what gifts are always about. When we show the world what great service is, or you go to the coffee shop, they learn from that too. I noticed that in the work market, and I think it's sort of like, so for us, it's just like this. It's just something we do, and we empower our employees to find ways to do that, to sort of have a little extra add-on, or to do something nice, or whatever, and it's kind of up to them.
So talk about how do you create that culture inside of your business? Do you have a training program, or is it selection of employees, or talk about the culture a little bit?
Of course, we do select, really great people. And then we have a training program. I mean, they go through, they learn everything. It's pretty rigorous and fun. I mean, they have to learn. They have to pass tests. Every time the new flavors come out, they have to pass tests, or they can't work. But it's pretty easy. I mean, but they're pretty intense. We also have, we have employee lunch once a month. So we pull out all the stops. I don't think there's a restaurant in town that can compare to what we do at our employee lunch once a month. And we invite everybody from the company over. We all go. It's really fun. We have 300 employees. So that's really fun. So we keep in touch with everybody as much as possible. We also have what we call the intranet, but it's a Facebook page, it's private. So we can always be talking with our employees constantly. And if they have questions, we can always be reached. So just keeping that sort of family atmosphere helps too. And hiring really, really great people means other really great people want to come work there. We've had times, especially in the beginning, where we weren't attracting really great team members, and that was all we were, you know what I mean? It's like this never-ending cycle. Once you start getting really great people to work for you, then more and more people want to come work for you, which makes sense.
Building on it. Can you talk about a little bit about the trends that are kind of out there in the food world? Like you have natural and sustainable and fresh and local, so I think you hit those marks. But then on the other side, there's a lot about portion control and healthy lifestyle. And is the ice cream treat just that strong of an indulgence that is? I think your business has been an overwhelming success, and it's a great model. Can you talk a little bit about kind of swimming against the trend of
Health?
Of health?
Well, I think we've got it a little bit backward in America. I think that there is room for dessert. I would rather have, I would say I'd rather have one voluptuous bite than a whole gallon of something forgettable. When you think of froyo as health food, that concerns me and it bothers me because it's not. And I don't know what's in that. And I like to know what's in it because sugar does not bother me. I know you can only eat a little bit of sugar. Really good butterfat, grass-fed. Grass-pastured butterfat is really good for you. But you have to, you can't eat 4 scoops a day, but nobody is, I hope. But I think it's all about small indulgence. We never do really big portions. I mean, some of our Sundays are not, they're shareable. But we've never been like, just pile it on, and certainly never been about just putting candy in our ice cream. So mindful eating is very important. Mindful everything, really. And I think that's sort of the key. I think something that we don't exactly understand how to do in America, or maybe it's changing in the whole world, that it's not about, that it ends up being about like nutritional labels and and I don't know that anybody really knows how to do that. We didn't have to have nutritional labels before, right? And we still had dessert almost at every meal. If you just eat a lot of vegetables and choose your things wisely, and don't go with the fat-free, sugar-free, everything free, because it's not free stuff, That's kind of where I'm at. And I think, we're not in the business to please everybody. We never have been. We are here to please you, the person sitting right in front of us. And so for us, it's healthy, and I think people who shop, who come to our company sort of feel the same way. It's an indulgence.
Can you talk back to the creativity side? So you have that big hat on and do a very good job with that. But what about the left brain side of the business equation? So inventory, payroll, and can you talk about some of your partnerships that allow the company to provide on both?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that that I think of entrepreneurism as one word, you know. And you don't have to have a business degree to do it. Anybody can do it. You don't even have to have a high school diploma to be a really successful entrepreneur. You just have to create something of value to somebody and figure out how to do it. But you can hire business people. And that's great because, so we have this wonderful team, not just business people, people are what we call math leads or whatever. So we have, I have CEO John Lowe, who's awesome in management. And without him, I don't know how we would, there's no way we could accomplish everything we could through the whole vision without having very clear sort of management structure in our business. My husband Charlie and I are like the perfect partnership because he's, and I don't really think of it as left brain, right brain. I'm a pretty much middle brain thinker. And he is too, Charlie is too, but just in a different way. So he's very much in math and statistics and analysis, which I can cross over into also. He's a very creative thinker when it comes to those things. His interest is in Google Analytics, right? I mean, some people don't like that stuff, I guess. But it's really important in our company that we have no overlap of skills, you know, that there's not one of us is disposable, right? That we're all really important in the big picture. And so that we all have to be very different and very good at what we do. And so we've got this really great team. I mean, of course, at the top it's Charlie, who's my husband, and John Lowe, and then Charlie's brother Tom, who's like a doer. Tom has like a sixth sense, so he knows when freezers are out. Like at 3 in the morning, he'll just wake up and he'll know the freezer on Chesapeake is out, and he'll get his Charlie order. And would you know it? Like 3 times, it's been right. No idea how he does that, but that's Tom. And without Tom's contribution to this business, like it wouldn't be where we are either. And then now we've got all these other great people who are doing this incredible work. A lot of people I don't understand what they do.
I think you mentioned Google. There's there's a whole section on Jeni's Splendid Ice Cream's website, videos and interactions, but we have a Google, Jeni's for Google video.
That's hilarious. We do everything on Google. I wrote the book on Google.
So just a couple quick final questions for Jeni and I, and then we'll open it up to some questions from the floor. But can you talk a little bit? I was on, I got a gift, a family gift from Turntable Kitchen. And Turntable Kitchen is you buy a recipe for a very fun dessert. I got strawberry cupcake pancake, and it comes along with a playlist. And so the whole idea is to foster community. So you get a recipe with a few key ingredients that come to your house, and then you get your family or friends around, and you make the item and you listen to some really cool music. And so I guess with that context, I was curious who's on your playlist, on your iPod.
Who's on my playlist?
Yeah.
Right now, let's see, right on the way over here I listen to Roxy music. You guys like Roxy music? No. King Charles, anybody in here know who King Charles is? He's really, really cute. Let's see, I like, I don't know, I have a lot of things. I have the worst taste in music too. I have like everything from the Ghetto Boys and Notorious B.I.G. to True, True Faith, but yeah.
Yeah.
On and on. But right now I think it's King Charles. I can't stop listening.
I think we have some questions.
We do.
All right, so
One of the first questions we received from Twitter is, what's your next move when it comes to opening a shop outside of Ohio? Any ideas for other states?
Yes. I just did this big sort of tour in New York. We gave out ice cream the whole week, and it was incredibly well received. So now we're really considering it as a store in New York. I always want to have a store in New York because I like New York as a city, and I just like to have a reason to go there more often. But now I actually think there's a business case for it. So we're going to go again in a couple weeks. So New York may happen now. We're looking at Chicago, because it's pretty easy to get to, and my family's from Illinois, and so we've got a spot in Chicago we're thinking about, and a few other ones. I mean, I think what we'll do, what we always do, is just wait for this perfect location to come up, and whichever city has that, we'll go there. But yeah, I think so. I mean, I think of Ohio as like the Champagne region, right, in France. You know, we've got this incredible dairy here. We've got a lot of family dairy farmers doing grass-fed, grass-pastured farming, which is what we want to tap into, and there's so many of them that we could bring into our system. Chipotle right now is actually keeping a lot of them in business, which is great for us. When we start taking away from Chipotle at some point. But so yeah, so I sort of feel like, great, we're going to create this sort of like, we're the champagne of ice creams, right? Ohio is a great state for growing flavor, not just cream, but lots of other great things too.
Okay. Another question was, what's the best business advice you've ever received?
The best business advice I've ever received, well, it's not very nice, but when I told Stan, who's the owner of Le Chatelaine, the patriarch of Le Chatelaine, real stern, serious guy, he had his glasses on his nose, and was doing accounting. I said, Stan, I'm going to go into business. Can you give me any advice? And without even looking up, he said, don't do it. And I said, okay. And I walked out. And I knew what he meant, because I had seen that family over many years go from this vibrant, beautiful family into this sort of, they work really, really hard, and I saw their son come in and bake bread every night, and the bags just got bigger and bigger and bigger under his eyes over many years. You know, I knew from that experience, from the experience of watching them, that it was going to be really hard, and that he was being sincere when he said, don't do it. I wouldn't give that advice, though.
Another question we had was, are you able to use local or Ohio products in your ice cream? If so, do you find an advantage in local sourcing?
I do. We our ice cream is 65%. All of ours, 65% directly derived from Ohio ag. So that's not even including like Stomp's coffee, cream of peanut butter, and all of the other sort of artisanal ingredients that we use that are from people we know here in Ohio. So 65% directly derived from Ohio. Now on top of that, we have sugar, which is not grown in Ohio, vanilla beans, chocolate. But even those, not sugar yet, but I think we're on this train and someday it will be. We can get our vanilla beans and even our chocolates directly from farmers outside of Ohio and around the world, and involve them in our success too, and pay them fairly for those ingredients. And I think of that as sort of a train that we're on. It's not necessarily about local, although that's really important to us, primarily because we like people. And we like to work directly with people, and we like to create this help, keep our money in Ohio kind of thing in our region. But really it's about having that relationship with people. So whether it's Ohio or our other suppliers internationally, or even sometimes nationally, we just like having a direct trade relationship with them.
One of our fans on Facebook asked, I'm amazed at your new flavor creations. Do you have flavor creators, or do they come from your imagination?
They're all from me. Right now we have a maple curry pumpkin and pecan ice cream sandwich out that if you haven't had, it's so good. And that actually was developed by Jake in our kitchen. He's awesome. And when he brought that forward, we were like, yep. But by and large, everything is so far have been my ideas. I mean, I have so many for flavors. Like, I don't know what I'm going to be done with that. But we bring in, I have my team, and so if they have ideas, we involve, we'll put it on the table.
I have my own personal question,
Okay.
actually. What did you do for income when you were first creating your business? Like, before you started making income from your own business, what did you do for income?
Well, you have to have another job. And then when I started in the North Market, it was just, I had to make a living. But I will tell you, I lived out of my car for 3 months. I made $638 for the whole 4 years that I was at Scream. I slept in the market several times. I never bought food. I always traded ice cream for food. That was how I lived. is totally fine when you're 22 years old. You know, I think of that as necessary, great. But yeah, I couldn't do that now, but I'm glad I did it then.
Any questions from the audience?
Do you have any specialized equipment that you had to create to make certain items?
Not yet, but not that come to mind right now, but I have lots of ideas. Someday when we get enough resources, there are a lot of different, I think we have, yeah, we're constantly sort of thinking of different things that we could maybe have engineered for us at some point to
Do
make
you have
better.
any, how would you go about getting a piece of equipment engineered for that?
Well, there are companies that do it, and I don't, and they, you know, and I, you know, probably would start with Ohio State. I'd probably call up one of the food science professors that I know over there and just say, who would you go with? He needed this. And it would be, I think they're pretty easy to find. Yeah, that'll be like, I know we've arrived and we can actually make our own ice cream sheet. There are certain things that we do need, and you know, and someday we'll get there and we'll have something made for us.
What made you decide to release your recipes?
In the cookbook, well, the recipe that I created for the cookbook is a different recipe. It's actually made for home machines. And so it wouldn't work in our machine in the kitchen, and our recipe in the kitchen wouldn't work on a home machine. So it's actually created based on the same science that I've learned over many years in Hagerty and also in our kitchen. It's kind of based on the same science there, but it's different because it has to do with home machines. So that made it a little bit easier. Also, I think the more you give, it sort of creates this better space or whatever. So giving out these recipes, getting people really excited about making ice cream at home, I think gets them more excited about ice cream in general. You know, maybe it comes back to us.
I just want to make sure to acknowledge your book. And so for those who aren't aware of Jenny's book that was released, like 2 years or so?
A year and a half, it was June, a year ago.
Just recently won the James Beard Foundation Award for
For baking and desserts.
baking and desserts. And so for those of you who may not be familiar, that's like winning the Heisman Trophy for
Or an Oscar, it really got.
yeah,
It's
it's
the
an
highest.
Oscar. So the highest accolade, so congratulations. That's terrific accomplishment.
Yeah, that's pretty, and we're in the 9th printing, so we're just pretty, we're about 100,000 copies.
We had a question.
I was just wondering, the things that you voted on meeting the customer in front of you at that moment, how did you get your customers to come into your store for the first time?
Well, if I had to open a business on High Street with a door, that would have been a whole different thing. I was lucky that I was allowed to do business in North Market. Open air market, more than 1 million people go through there every year. If you can't entice somebody over your counter, which many days I didn't, something's wrong. You've got, so by that, I can't say, I'm not saying it was easy because I didn't get it at first, but eventually I did by learning from customers. And so when and actually a side thing, when I think of our business, I really think that everything I know about business, about ice cream, and our business in general was raised by the community of Columbus, starting in the North Market and building out. Because as soon as we got a little bit better, then we'd start to get more like mentors and community people taking notice and offering us assistance. And that continues to this day, which is a side note from what you're saying, but you know, it's about just being there with people.
Do you make all of your ice cream in one kitchen and then take it to the stores, or I'm thinking of Nashville, or do they make it on site?
We make everything in one kitchen. Actually, we have a couple of kitchens. We have a bakery and then our ice cream kitchen. And we have highly specialized equipment in there that we could never have just in a store, or we wouldn't work. So yeah, so we have our bakery where we do all of our cookies and marshmallows and sauces and pralines and all that stuff. And then we take that to the ice cream kitchen and we do all of the ice cream making. And then we have what's turning out to be like a small fleet of trucks now that we can drive around, which is pretty awesome. And we drive down to Nashville a couple times a week.
I recently saw your ice cream on the TV show, and I think it was
Parenthood.
Parenthood. Yes. Was that just they decided and came to you and said, we want this on there, or how did that?
Well, there's a guy on Parenthood, his name is Sam Yeager, and I don't watch Parenthood, so I don't know what his role is. but he directed that. He's on the show, but then he also directed that episode. He's from Ohio, he's friends with a friend of mine, and he's an acquaintance of mine. But he's been organizing for the set for the last couple of years. And so when he got the opportunity to direct it, he said, we're gonna sneak it in the show. And we're like, okay, cool, that's great. But it was a pretty long segment, that was pretty cool. Like, we're like, oh, this is good ice cream. Like, you know, like, I'll make sure that the logo is right. I know, that was really funny. I didn't expect it to be so big, so funny. Hi.
Hi.
From the very, very early days.
Where is 7 days?
Oh yeah, that's 3 days.
Yes, Sue, it's spectacular.
I knew you would like that one. I knew it.
Absolutely fabulous, just fabulous. And so I'm wondering, would you talk about the evolution of that flavor as an example of how you develop your flavors? Because it is just out of this.
Yeah, well that was a fun one. So Yazoo's Brewery in Nashville. I just went over and made friends with them. And the cherrywood smoked porter is an item that they can't, or a beer that they can't sell by the pint in their little pub because it's too high in alcohol in Nashville. They're not allowed. And so I was like, well, you know, let me taste it. Like, what's this, you know, all about? It's cherrywood smoked porter. It sounded really interesting. And so as soon as I tasted it, I thought it tasted like meat, like smoked meat. It was very like umami. And so I thought it needs to be paired with something that complements that. That really accentuates that. So then I was like rosemary bar nuts, like pretend like the nuts are meat and roast them with like a rub and put that in there and yeah, I think it really works.
Okay, and then you just throw in some sugar.
Well, it's a cayenne and brown sugar and rosemary. We have so much fresh rosemary in our kitchen when we're making those nuts that you can smell it when you're walking up to the kitchen. There's just like piles of fresh rosemary. It like hurts your nose. I love that flavor.
Given all your accolades, what do you consider the biggest compliment or accomplishment that's been made to you?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's funny. I don't know how to answer that question because I think I have a problem. I usually don't look backward. It's really hard for me to, you know, I always think forward, so it's hard for me to reflect on that, you know, too. But I mean, the biggest accomplishment, I mean, health benefits was pretty great. When our employees got health benefits, that was awesome. Hiring a CEO was amazing. When Zach Posen ordered our ice cream, that was pretty awesome. You guys know who Zach Posen is? Really cute fashion designer. But there's been a lot, you know, and we're proud of everything. And you know, we've had so much media. We've been in the New York Times so many times, but we've never put it up on our walls. We don't talk about that because I think of that as amazing and what a great fuel. But it was yesterday. Because, you know, the only thing that matters is what we're doing right now and tomorrow. You know, we want to take little strides forward every day. And that's just kind of how we sort of think about it is,
with all the ice creams that you have, like, you know, first of all, do you have a specific favorite? Like, nothing else will touch the one that you've made, I guess, kind of expression. And then is there any specific ice cream that you go to, maybe like on a cold day, or like a rainy day, or like you've had a good day or a bad
spring day, yeah.
Exactly. Or if Ohio State wins a football game, do you go for the Buckeye one, or like something like that?
Well, it's true that the Buckeye State, which is the cream of peanut butter and chocolate ice cream, it's not my favorite flavor, but if there's something going on with the Buckeyes, I get taste better. I don't know why. I like it better. But my favorite flavor, it has been since the very beginning, is the lemon yogurt. Our yogurts are phenomenal. They just won a big award this year. They're incredibly simple. They're real yogurt, actually biodynamic yogurt, which is like one step above organic. You have to have like unicorns on the farm. We actually don't know what biodynamic means. We just know that it's one step above organic. And the yogurt itself is really, really delicious. It's very tart, real yogurt. And then we put fresh squeezed lemon juice in it and just a little bit of our grass pasture cream. It is like, in the summer, I put it on pies, I eat it on cone, whatever. But in the winter, it's salted caramel. And then there is one flavor, or lavender, which is my least favorite flavor all year long, except for Easter-ish time. If it's like a nice spring day, for some reason, lavender ice cream and pound cake, that's what I crave. Each flavor has kind of a personality.
I have two questions actually. What business do you admire the most?
what business do I admire the most? I don't know, maybe Tom's shoes right now. First one that comes to mind. Apple, of course. I like Tom's shoes because I do feel that business can make change. I think business can make change a lot faster than government. I think, when you grow your business like a community, that's the way we grow our business. I think you can see change almost immediately. In fact, I have to. Like when we want something, it's done. And I love that power of businesses. So when I see Tom's shoes and businesses like that, it gets me really excited about the change that businesses can make happen in the world.
And you said that you like to look into the future, so what goals do you have for your company?
Well, isn't that funny? Because now I'm going to contradict myself. I think, yeah, I live in the future. I do. Did you guys ever do strength finders, Clifton strength finders?
Yeah.
You guys do that?
Yeah.
Well, my first strength is futuristic, which I thought was so awesome. But anyway, that's beside the point. I don't know. I'm always thinking, but when it comes to like 5-year plans, somebody was like, Karen Mitchell said to me, like, well, what do you want to be in 5 years? And I was like, oh man, I don't know. And then I felt so unprofessional. This is a couple years ago. And now I feel like you actually like sort of living, a year in advance is good, but having too many plans actually can hold you back because you have to change pretty quickly now. I think things have changed in the last 10 years in business that you have to be able to adjust pretty quickly. I mean, we want to, we know that we want to make the best ice cream possible. That's our number one mission. Have the best service we possibly can, make people feel good, all that, and grow, and continue to do what we're doing.
I'm really hung up on you having pink hair because you're so pulled together now. You have such a strong business. Do you feel like that, like pink hair living in your car, trading food for food was like the face of your life, or is it now still who you are, just so fine?
Oh no, it's totally who I am. I mean, I'm super scrappy. Like I'm always ready for, I'm loud music, drive fast. Every day is fast, fast, fast. People can't keep up with me. I'm constantly moving. That's me. Like I feel like those days were really important for me, but it was just me, and I don't think it's changed at all. Yeah. I mean, I don't wear my underwear on the outside anymore. That's good. Slips and, all that I consider dresses back then. But, yeah. Taking risks, it's all about risk. I think, like I said in that video, I mean, if I have a sort of down, like a problem, it's just I'm always ready to take a big risk. Always ready to jump off a cliff.
Besides having a good team behind you, how do you ensure that things get done the way that you expect them to get done at all times, and how often do you go and visit other schools?
How do I get things done exactly the way I want them to be done at all times? I'm there all the time. Today before I left, we're talking about we're doing an album for Christmas, by the way, guys. We have a band in our kitchen who's actually recording some music, original tunes. So we're working on the album cover, and it wasn't right, and we were working on that. Yesterday I was in the kitchen all day long because there was this one thing that wasn't going right. I'm eating ice cream every day, like I said, at 3 o'clock. I like to eat it. I like to be there when it's being done, just to sort of check in. Not micromanage that or whatever. I mean, they've got great people, but to taste it all the time and evaluate it. What was your second question?
How often do you go to your stores?
Well, it depends on the store. At least every 3 months, every store, including Nashville, Chagrin Falls. But then I'm in the Short North and Bexley, the Short North, Bexley, and Grandview all the time, and the North Market, just because those are the stores that I sort of live around.
I want to just, one more question, and then, any questions?
Was there anything specifically about like the Nashville location that you decided to go there? Was it demographics there, like more for ice cream or something?
Well, Nashville, my dad and my grandmother live in Arkansas. My mother-in-law lives in Nashville. My brother-in-law is from Nashville. See, every time I start talking about Nashville, I actually get the Nashville accent. I love it there. I love Nashville. Nashville's a lot like Columbus. It's about the same size. It's actually, in some ways, it has like this whole music scene, so it's like this whole creative thing is more than Columbus, but then in other ways it's less. Like it doesn't have the neighborhoods that we have that are walkable, but it's just starting with that. It's a real up and coming city that's already sort of there in some ways and happening in others. And we've wanted to open it for a long time. It's only 6 hours away, so we can get the ice cream there quickly. We can be down there, in 1 hour on the plane. So we just thought it'd be a great thing to try. It's our busiest store. Yeah, it's a big deal. And I'll tell you, Nashville's also really cool because we can't open in LA right now. It's too far away for ice cream. But Nashville, the Black Keys are regular customers. Taylor Swift is a regular customer. Keith Urban, there are bands that I don't even know. East Nashville's where all of them live. It's not about country music anymore either. So it's a great place for us because then they spread the word and give us gifts and we're at all the parties and, it's a good place. Very creative. Lots of artisans in Nashville. And if you need a good pair of $400 jeans, you've got it. I'm in need of it.
That's been terrific. Well, thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you.